That's all right, so you have a range clear launch.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Moon Trees Live 2. The Forest Service provided hundreds of tree seeds to NASA, who launched them into space as a part of the Artemis 1 mission. In this set of 3 videos, we're exploring what happens next with those seeds. In this episode, we're going to learn how scientists get the seeds to grow, how they're cared for until they're planted, and what kinds of scientific information the experts are hoping to get from these seedlings. To learn more about how the spacecraft was recovered and how the seeds were unpacked and checked for viability, check out the first 2 episodes of Moon Trees Live 2. In case you missed Moon Trees Live 1, check it out to learn how these tree seeds began their journey through space. But today, let's pick up where we left off and talk about what happened after we found out that the seeds were still alive. The next step is basically to grow them. The USDA Forest Service has 6 nurseries across the United States, and the moon trees will be grown at some of these sites. When the seeds get to a nursery, they have to go through something we call germination.
Seed germination is when the seed starts the metabolic process of dividing cells and growing. Shortly after that, will come up and push through the soil.
We put those seeds in favorable conditions and then see if they actually do sprout, germinate, and become little tree seedlings.
But right now, our tree seeds are dormant. That basically means that they're sleeping. So we'll need to wake them up so they can start germinating. We do this with a little water and some time in a refrigerator.
Almost all of our tree seeds require a little bit of exposure to cold, moist conditions that mimic what that seed might experience during the winter. It's pretty easy. We take the seeds and we soak them in typically running water for 24 to 48 hours. And that allows the seeds to absorb the water that they need in order to start the physiological processes of germination. After we do that, then we put the seeds into the refrigerator at about somewhere between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Could be a little cooler, could be a little bit warmer.
And that'll help get over that dormancy. And then once I take it out after 30, 60 days, it'll germinate relatively uniform and typically way more uniform than if you didn't give it a cold treatment or a chilling time.
Depending on the species, we might soak them a little bit again to get some more water into the seeds. And then they can be sown or planted in the nursery. And germination will occur in 7 to 10 days or so, depending on the species.
Then our nurseries will grow the trees in one of 2 ways.
Some of our nurseries are going to be growing these as bare root plants. That means they're going to sow the seeds outdoors in a field and grow the seedlings in soil. And then we have some nurseries that are going to plant these seeds on a substrate of peat moss in a container in a greenhouse and grow them that way.
The seeds that are grown in greenhouses get to stay nice and warm.
All of our greenhouses here at Bessie Nursery are heated and climate controlled. We have a daytime temp of 70 and a nighttime temp of about 68. You'll have germination within 7 to 14 days. And then once I start seeing some true leaves on the seedlings, I will then start transplanting them out of the seed plats into the container that they're going to be in.
It takes about 3 to 5 months for them to really take off and get to the desired size. After that, the seedlings have to go through boot camp.
We're going to start getting them prepared to the real life, to life on their eventual planting site. And we do that by starting a process we call hardening off. And during hardening off, we try to start acclimating those seedlings to the realities of a life outside of the nursery, where they're going to be perhaps in drier, warmer, or colder conditions. And so it's a process of toughening up the seedling, hardening it up so it can withstand all of the stresses that are going to come at it as it begins its life on its final planting site.
That's how we're going to care for those little seedlings.
But not all of the seedlings are a part of the same group. We actually have 3 different groups of tree seeds we're growing. One group was loaded and stored in the Orion spacecraft months before it launched. One group was loaded onto Orion just a couple of weeks before it launched, and the last group actually didn't go up into space. They stayed back here on Earth.
And this is going to be able to tell us a couple of different things. It's going to be able to tell us, did that long storage period inside Orion affect germination? And do we have to think about that for future space travel? Then we can compare those seeds that weren't stored very long in Orion, and that will give us an idea of the actual effects of space travel on the seeds. So what we're going to do after these seeds germinate is we're going to take some physiological measurements on them and some morphological measurements on them just to see if there's any difference in growth.
The physiological status of a seedling is basically how it's doing on the inside, and the morphological status is how it's doing on the outside.
The morphological measurements are easy. It's how tall is it? How thick is its stem? How long are its needles, or how big are its leaves? The physical appearance of it. Those are pretty easy and pretty standard ways of assessing plant growth. And we're also going to do some physiological tests. These are a lot cooler the way I look at it, because we look at how are those seedlings photosynthesizing? Are they photosynthesizing at different rates? What are their nutrient concentrations? What are their hardiness levels? These are all sort of physiological or metabolic measurements that we can take on the seedlings, where there might be some differences that aren't apparent in their morphology, but might be important for the long-term survival and growth of the plant. So we're going to do that during the growing season. And together, the germination data, this morphology data, and this physiological data will help us better describe both the effects of storage time before going into space, and then the actual effects of space travel itself on the growth of our moon trees.
But all of us are taking part in the project and going to grow some of the seedlings. So we're extremely excited about this.
And so we'll be able to follow these moon trees, and we'll be able to understand how trees grow, and maybe how trees grow when they've been flown into space. And this will help our overall understanding about how our trees are these dynamic creatures that respond to environmental cues. So this moon tree is really an exciting opportunity for all of us to learn more about the special nature of trees and how they grow.
Amazing! But the journey doesn't stop here. So more Moon Trees Live 2 episodes are on their way. Join us next week for a live question and answer program where our experts will be answering your questions live. Moon Trees Live 2. The journey continues. So be sure to blast off and check out all of our videos. Thanks for watching.
You have a range clear launch.
3, 2, 1.